United States and Britain have launched a series of airstrikes on the Houthi militia in Yemen. Washington and London put out a joint statement saying they hit dozens of targets, including underground weapons dumps, missile systems and launchers, and radars. The strikes on the Iranian-backed Houthis follow earlier U.S. airstrikes on Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria. Baghdad and Damascus condemned the attacks, which killed at least 45 people.
This is the aftermath of U.S. retaliation. B-1 bomber jets launched an air assault on dozens of sites in Iraq and Syria. Images posted Friday on social media show several explosions on the Iraqi-Syrian border. Syrian state media showed footage of what they say was one of the attacks. The 85 strikes hit 7 different sites. U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the U.S. targeted sites linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard, or IRGC, and militias it supports. He said more attacks could be expected.
So the signal is to the IRGC and to these groups, the attacks have got to stop. This wasn't just a message-sending routine tonight. This was about degrading capabilities, taking away capabilities by the IRGC and the militant groups. These responses began tonight. They're not going to end tonight.
A spokesperson for one Iranian-backed militia said the strikes on Iraq failed to meet their objectives. Iraqi authorities say the strikes violated their sovereignty, while the Syrian regime says the attacks have increased the chances of the conflict spreading. On Friday, U.S. President Joe Biden joined grieving families to honor the American soldiers killed in the Jordan drone attacks. In a statement, Biden said, "Our response began today. It will continue at times and places of our choosing."
Let's bring in Gerald Feierstein, a former U.S. ambassador to Yemen. He's now with the Middle East Institute in Washington, D.C., and joins us now from Philadelphia. Welcome to the program. Now, the U.S. and the U.K. announced attacks on these Houthi targets across Yemen. That comes not long after the U.S. strikes in Syria and Iraq. Are these two linked?
It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I think that they are linked in the sense that they are responses to the Iranian axis of resistance that brings these various non-state actors together in a integrated policy initiative. But the U.S. and Yemen also are looking at the safe passage of international shipping in the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb, and that gives the U.S. a somewhat different reason for striking these Houthi targets.
Looking at these attacks, the Houthi attacks on the Houthi targets, are they a significant escalation from the strikes we've already seen?
Well, apparently they increased the target set so that they were hitting facilities that we hadn't hit before. In the initial phases, the U.S. limited its strikes to only those Houthi facilities that were directly involved in firing at shipping in the Red Sea. This time, it looks like they expanded that to include weapons caches and some other facilities, but still limited to military targets.
And looking at these attacks as a whole, these strikes, targeting these different militias, but also we've seen the Quds Force, Iran's Quds Force being hit as well. How far can the U.S. go with these operations without actually hitting Iran itself?
Well, this is the very delicate balancing act that the Biden administration is trying to maintain, which is that the president has said repeatedly, we don't want the conflict to expand. I think that they have pretty much taken the idea of striking at Iran itself off the table, and therefore there is a cap on how far the administration can go. They can try to deter or degrade the capabilities of these Iranian affiliates, but they cannot and will not actually limit the willingness or the ability of Iran to maintain its support for these groups.
Do you expect some kind of armed response, not just from these proxies, but from Iran itself?
Well, I think that, as the Biden administration has said that they don't want an expansion of the conflict, the Iranians have also said that they don't want an expansion of the conflict. So again, they are in as delicate a position as the Biden administration in going as far as they can go without crossing U.S. red lines and actually bringing the kind of expanded U.S. response that they want to avoid. And so what we've seen so far are Iranian efforts to limit the damage to their own interests and to maintain their capabilities, but without crossing U.S. red lines. And that also means that they probably will not engage directly against the U.S.
Okay. Gerald Feierstein from the Middle East Institute in Washington, D.C. Very good speaking to you. Thanks for your time.
Pleasure.